oh, are we ever going to be happy? The thing we thought would make us the greatest happy, it's giving out so fast, nothing's really fun anymore.
Yeah. That's so true, right? We think, oh, I could just do this forever. But really? God didn't put us on this earth to have a vacation for 52 weeks a year. Like, that's not the point.
Heaven is beautiful. There's this, with the report we're reading right here, it's like heaven is this incredibly gorgeous place, but it doesn't matter. Like, the beauty of heaven will do nothing for you unless you have heaven inside yourself. And this third group of people that had the wrong idea about heaven, they got set straight. You're going to see that just it blows away. It dissipates in the wind if you think that that's what heaven is. And really, this group who came out and said that heavenly happiness is like being in a paradise or like a great surroundings. It's like the leisure is heaven impulse in us, that you think, what would, if I could be as happy as I could possibly be, I'd never have to work again.
Yeah.
That's what I never have any responsibilities. I just get to relax all the time. Wait, I'm going to start wanting to do this. Okay, focus. If I just relax all the time, that's what heaven is. So this is from True Christianity 732. This is the third group. The conclusion of our group, as people who got together and said this is what our heaven would be, is that heavenly joys are the joys of a garden paradise. Surely heaven is a garden paradise that extends all the way from the east to the west and from the south to the north. In it there are fruit trees and gorgeous flowers. At the center of them all there stands a magnificent tree of life from the book of Revelation. The blessed will sit by this tree and eat exquisitely flavorful fruit and wear wonderfully fragrant garlands of flowers. And because the warmth of spring is everlasting there, the minds of the blessed too are continually being renewed and cannot help coming upon new joys every day and drinking them in. So we've got perfect climate, beautiful surroundings, great things to eat and drink. That's all you do every day. That's got to be heaven. So this is what happened to that group. They got what they wanted. The angel led them through a tall gateway made of interwoven shoots and branches from excellent species of trees. Beyond the entrance, he led them along a meandering path from one area to another. This was, in fact, a garden paradise at the first point of entry to heaven. So this really was a place in heaven, but it's not the core of heaven. But we're going to do this. The group that was led along by the angel then saw a huge crowd of people, both male and female, of all ages. They were in groups of 3 here, 3 there, 10 here, 10 there. Some groups were sitting among rose gardens, weaving garlands for the heads of the older people and the arms of the young, braiding flower sashes to go around the children's chests. Other groups were making fruit juice, squeezing grapes, cherries, and berries into cups, and enjoying sipping from them. Other groups were inhaling the air, which was redolent with the fragrances of flowers, fruits, and sweet-smelling leaves. Some groups were singing, caressing the ears of their listeners with beautiful songs. Some groups were sitting by fountains, making different patterns with the water that was squirting in the air. Other groups were going into gazebos to lie around on couches. They were all enjoying these and many other paradisal pastimes. So it's like Sandals, Jamaica. It's just like look at this. We got this great resort. Everyone's lounging around. This has got to be heaven. After the angels' group had seen all this, he brought them along a path that wound here and there until finally he stopped next to a group of people sitting in a gorgeous rose garden, bordered by olive trees, orange trees, and lemon trees. The people were rocking back and forth, holding their heads in their hands, grief-stricken and weeping. Wait a second. Okay, so we got some people are there. They're in this great paradise. They get to go live their idea of heaven. And how are you doing? I'm crying. The people in the angels group greeted them and asked, "What's wrong?" "It has been 7 days now," they replied, "since we arrived in this paradise. When we first arrived, we felt as though our minds had been lifted into heaven itself and we had gained access to inmost joys and pleasures." So it really does feel great. It's not that these things can't feel great, it's the duration. Can you build a happy life on this? After 3 days, though, the fun began to wear off. These things became less and less pleasant to our minds. We eventually became numb to them and found no pleasure in them at all. When things that we had thought would be such joys became no fun anymore, we started to fear that we were losing every delight of our life. We began to doubt that there even was such a thing as eternal happiness. That's interesting. So then we began wandering along the pathways and through different areas looking for that gateway through which we had come in. We look around at all the olives, grapes, oranges, and lemons, but the more we look at them, the more tired we get of everything we can see with our eyes, smell with our noses, and taste with our tongues. So I think something that's interesting there is like, so there's all these different kinds of joys in life. There's the joy of like seeing beautiful things and being around luxury and in a place where you don't have any responsibilities. But after people, if they lean too hard on those, like this is what heaven is, I'm gonna do it all the time, every day, and they start to, the shine is wearing off, this is becoming normal, and then they're worried like, oh, are we ever gonna be happy? Because the thing we thought would make us the greatest happy, it's giving out so fast. Are we going to go into this like sort of zombie state of nothing's really fun anymore?
Yeah. What was striking to me was where they said after 3 days the fun began to wear off. That's so true, right? We think, oh, I could just do this forever, but really, 3 days these people, that's not that long.
Yeah.
3 days these people are just enough of this, and I think it's that way with vacation, right? It's a little like thinking, if life was just a permanent vacation, which is nice to think, but not really what life is about. Like, God didn't put us on this earth to have a vacation, for 52 weeks a year. Like, that's not the point.
There's my father-in-law is like, he'll like, we go sometimes with them on this vacation to the beach. It's really great. But I heard him talking about by the end of it, the last few days, he's like, I need to be back.
Yeah.
Like, I need to be working on stuff.
Yeah.
Because there is like it's not saying, and none of this is saying like, oh, going to a vacation isn't great.
Yeah.
And not that you don't have to have that. You can't just work all the time, do it. But it's the combination of a life that's based in usefulness. Then the vacation can do what it wants to do, what it's supposed to do, which is give you this break, give you a little time to, you don't have any worries. You're resting. You're just enjoying simple things in life. That with the underpinning of, there's just a short departure from the thing that I do to make the human race better. That's the right combination. It's just like it's like salt. It's like salt on food. It's like a little bit. This is so great. You too much is very quickly. I don't want to put this in my mouth. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking too. There's ways. Again, this gets back to the idea. What are the hacks to do this, like in our lives? And thinking, have a great vacation. By all means, like we should all have wonderful vacations. But if we think about it more from like, how can I find pleasure? How can I find the next thrill? To how can I be more connected with the people I'm with? Just finding those little differences. Not, oh, what's the next fun thing I can do that'll be entertaining? How can I connect with someone? Like my mom on vacation, one of the things she did religiously, and there's 5 of us in my family, was she would take each of us out to breakfast, when we were little kids. Each of us got breakfast with mom one day. That's being useful. That's that beautiful combination of both recreation, vacation, and usefulness all coming together in one.
That's great. That's a fun thing for her to do.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I've been on vacation and like in the ocean swimming, and I don't know what to do with my mind. Like, I'm like, what am I like? Yeah. How do I? But if I think of like, like if I think about myself as the guy that does the jobs that I do, and I think, okay, well, Curtis would need this to recharge. Like this that's what we're doing here. Is we're gonna getting him back so that he can go and do that. Like gives you a focus, makes you enjoy it more.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what they learned. The angel with the visiting group said to them, "This labyrinth of a garden paradise is actually just an entrance on the outskirts of heaven. I know the way and I'll take you there." At this, the people sitting on the ground jumped up and gave the angel a hug. They joined the angel and his group. As they walked along, the angel taught them what heavenly joy and eternal happiness really are. Again, both our group were with, and then this group who had been in there, both had this false idea of heaven. But now that they've seen it's not really good, they got in this receptive state where they're eager for information about the truth, which before that, they wouldn't have heard it because it's just like, no, you're wrong. Going into that permanent vacation is happiness. But now it's like, okay, well, what really is happiness?
Yeah.
They are not, in fact, the external pleasures of paradise, he said, unless the internal pleasures of paradise are felt at the same time. External pleasures of paradise are just things that delight our bodily senses. Internal pleasures of paradise are things that satisfy the desires of our soul. If these inner pleasures are not present within these outer pleasures, the outer pleasures have no heavenly life because they have no soul. Every delight that is lacking its corresponding soul fades and wears out over time. Eventually, it fatigues the mind more than work does. And it's harder to... Okay, so as a soul. Food, why is food fun to do? Because food makes your body continue to function. That's the soul of the joy and of the food. That's why everything is like that. Why do you enjoy these things? Because they tend back toward usefulness. All throughout the heavens, there are garden paradises, which are a source of great joy to the angels. The more of the soul's delight the angels have, the more truly joyful these joys become to them. At that point, they all asked, what is the soul's delight? Where does it come from? Yeah, I would want to know. Yeah. What's the soul's delight? Where does it come from? The soul's delight, the angel answered, comes from love and wisdom from the Lord. Love is what produces this delight, and wisdom is how it produces it. Both love and wisdom find a home in the effect they have, and that effect is usefulness. This delight flows from the Lord into our soul and comes down through the higher and lower levels of our mind into all our bodily senses and finds its fulfillment in them. This is what makes it joyful and also makes it everlasting, because it comes from the eternal source. You have now seen the features of a heavenly garden paradise, and I tell you the truth, there is not a single thing there, not even the littlest leaf, that does not come from the marriage of love and wisdom and usefulness. Therefore, if we have that marriage within ourselves, then we are in a heavenly paradise, and therefore in heaven itself.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Chris. And I love the idea, too, where Swedenborg uses the analogy of a labyrinth. And when you look at labyrinths are such a beautiful spiritual tool. And, I would tell those of you who are listening or online right now, like just Google the Chartres, Labyrinth at Chartres Cathedral. And it so fits in perfectly with this particular memorable relation, because you come into the labyrinth and it looks like you get this pass right into the middle, right into the core. You're trying to get to the core, to get home.
Yeah, right.
To win. Feels like, yeah, you feel win. You feel like you get right there.
Yeah.
But then you realize, oh no, it's actually this winding. And there's a time where actually, this is kind of crazy, where somebody who's at the furthest ring is actually closer to home than the person who appears to be right beside it, because they just started their journey. And I think of that like a false heaven, right? We go rushing in like, oh, this will be it. And the Lord's like, yeah, might be parts of it, but there's going to be this journey to help you discover what real joy is. And that idea of a labyrinth, like the difference between a labyrinth and a maze, which I just love this idea. Yeah. The difference between a labyrinth and a maze is a labyrinth has no dead ends. And a maze does. Like, God's not setting up this maze for sort of like when we put the little rats here and we're trying to find the cheese.
Yeah,
right. That's not at all. It's this path, and we get to try this. But part of divine providence was that we would try this, and that the Lord's just going to keep on guiding us and getting us home that way.
Yeah, man. No dead ends.
No dead ends.
So everything in your life is there for some kind of use. Yeah. So this is part of your journey to heaven. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. I like that. The marriage within itself. One of the fascinating things about the way that heaven is, the way that the spiritual world works, according to Swedenborg, is everything there reflects an inner state. So it reflects like what's in your heart and mind. So all this stuff, people kind of think, oh yeah, heaven is beautiful. There's all kinds of beautiful stuff going on. But why is it beautiful? Like what makes the stuff there beautiful? I mean, in the world, you can go out into the woods near a house, and there's a reason why the woods there are like they are. If you're way up in the northern latitudes, the woods is going to have a certain kind of tree. It's going to be conifers. They're going to be slow growing, and that's because that's how the environment is. Yeah, that's what makes it like it is. If you're down in the tropics or like the subtropics, there's going to be palm trees and there's going to be dense vegetation, and it has to do with the why in heaven is all the beautiful stuff there. It's because it's not just like that's God spent more money on it or something. It's because in heaven, the surroundings reflect not climactic conditions, but psychological conditions. So that if there's people that love, that have the internal things in them that is beautiful, if people have love and humility and justice and fairness in their hearts, that shows itself in the surroundings through how things look around them. It's like projected around them. Yeah. It's like their aura comes out of them. And so everything in heaven that's beautiful is only there and only takes the form it does because it's reflecting what's really beautiful, which is what goes on in your heart when the Lord's in there, when heaven's in there,
yeah.
when a love for the human race is what's driving you. So to try to take the external stuff, like just the sights and sounds and just like the beauty effects of it, and not the soul at the same time, which is a love of doing what's good for other people, you just like, it's like you're stripping, you're separating it and making it fake.
Yeah. Well, you know, the soul of beauty is so powerful, right? Like both of us are blessed with children, and I'm sure Sydney's a very accomplished artist. But like if you took it beside a Rembrandt, right, and you put a piece of her artwork beside a Rembrandt, well, which one's more beautiful? Well, the fact is, to you, guess what?
I was at a concert, like a school concert, where it was like the school orchestra, and they're all playing together. And I was just struck by, it was so, like the music was going, and now it's time for all the kids on their stringed instruments. It sounded like a horror movie. Like, because, you know, in a horror movie, it's like, and discordant. And that's kind of how it's like, they were all trying their best, but it was just hilarious. Like, they're little. They don't know how to do it right. So it's like, objectively, it didn't sound like it was supposed to, but everybody there loved it. Yeah. Everybody there was just like, they had stars in their eyes. Look at all the parents were just like, this is so great. That's so cute. That's so good. Yeah. I think they loved it more than, they're going to go hear the Philadelphia harmonic, something Philharmonic, something whatever, because the goodness that's inside of it.
Mm-hmm. That's the soul of beauty, right? And it's fascinating the way the soul of beauty can kind of create the world that we live in. Yeah. And in heaven, it literally does that. And in our world, pretty close, you know, to creating the world that we live in.